What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of This Brother Talks. Again, well, everybody know my name is Tony. Just want to thank everybody who get on, everybody who participates, everybody who just makes it possible for me to spill all of everything that my opinion and what I think on certain topics in sports. We got a lot to talk about today. It's mostly going to be an NBA segment simply because the playoffs just started. We had a great weekend of basketball, which I'm very surprised of because I hadn't been a fan of NBA basketball. But it was a great weekend with some really, really, really good games. So we're going to dig right into things. But we're going to first start talking about something in the NBA that I really don't care for. And our first topic is going to be about, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty and all that good stuff. But we're going to talk about Luke Walton's job being safe in Sacramento. That troubles me simply because Luke Walton, to me, is not the best coach there is. Like, he has a job based off of what he did in Golden State. And anybody could have did that in Golden State. All he did was fill in for Steve Kerr. When he was the Lakers coach, he didn't do a good job. Now he's Sacramento coach, and they basically said it was a basketball decision, which I think is totally crap. I think it really boils down to money because he's owed over the next 2 years $11.5 million. So they don't want to bite the bullet on that, which I completely understand. But just keep it real about everything. Don't say it's basketball and you guys got yourself into the likes or possibly playing in the play-in game, which I think that's kind of, bogus in my opinion, because I don't think they really had a chance to be in the play-in game because we saw who was in that, and it was no way that they were going to beat any of those teams or have a chance against any of those teams. So, Luke Walton record over his career is 175 and 223. And find out that 15 of those wins and 3 of those losses don't count simply because he wasn't the head coach of the Golden State Warriors during the time that he coached there. I really think that it's terrible that you can say this man's job is safe and he has done nothing as a head coach. Dwayne Casey won Coach of the Year. He got fired from Toronto. So I mean that's just baffling to me that that they would really come out and say his job is safe. Like, how much more does he need to show that he's not a great NBA coach? Like I said, we could have took anybody from off the street and coached that Golden State Warriors team because all thing he had to do was just put them out there and tell them, hey, just go and play. It's not like he drew up any X's and O's or anything like that. I mean, you had a bona fide team that, that was built to win a championship. You had superstar after superstar after superstar. So anybody could have coached that team. I mean, he was just the lucky one that, they picked to say, okay, well, you're going to be the interim coach until Steve Kerr recovers from his back surgery or whatever. But now in Sacramento, like, I haven't seen anything good out of it. They say he got the players' confidence and this, that, and the third, but it's nowhere in the hell a coach gonna have my confidence as a player, and we're not winning. Like 2 years in a row, we're not winning. So, like, his first 2 seasons in Sacramento was 62 and 82. Like, how is that having players' confidence when you have a below 500 record in 2 years? His overall winning percentage is 42.9. That's not a good winning percentage. And like I said, and it's probably lower than that because 15 of those wins was Golden State, and it doesn't count. So basically he's 160 and 230. So that makes it drop even more. But it's neither here nor there. Like, I don't think that he is a good coach of the NBA. I think that he's coaching simply because of his last name, and it was kind of shocking that that the new GM came in and kept him, because most of the time when you bring a new GM, they go and make changes with the coaching staff and everything because they want their own people in there. And he decided to keep, Luke Walton on. And for Sacramento to be satisfied with that, that's kind of shocking to me. It seems to me like they don't know which way they want their organization to go, because if that's the way you want your organization to go, it's been 15 years since you've been in the playoffs, 15 years. So you want to go another 5, another 10 without getting there, keep Luke Walton. That's all I'm going to say, because like he didn't show me anything when he was with the Lakers. He didn't show anything to me when he was with Golden State, because Golden State was just a bona fide team. And like I said, anybody could have coached him. And he's definitely not showing me anything now. But I'm going to get off Luke Walton. That's just something I want to talk about, because I was kind of shocked. Like, it came out last Monday and, I had already had my topics and stuff together. And how can a man keep his job whenever it's just he's doing a less than mediocre job? Like, it's just baffling to me. It's really baffling to me that he still has a coaching job and it's just lackluster. And for anybody to say that he has the player confidence, then if he has those players' confidence, I see why they have a losing record and they will continue to lose, because I wouldn't have no trust, no faith or anything in him, because he hadn't shown anything. And so we're gonna move along, and I'm gonna get on the MVP finalists, the NBA MVP finalists. So the finalists that we have are Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, and Nikola Jokic. First things first. Everybody's saying that Jokic should win simply because it was Embiid, but he spent too much time out. And if I'm not mistaken, some years ago, somebody won MVP that missed more games than somebody else. It's amazing how they change the narrative each year. Each year they change the narrative. But the first person on the list, Steph Curry, had a hell of a run down the stretch, but he definitely shouldn't be an MVP finalist. And this is solely my opinion, and you can think what you want to think, but Steph Curry, it's no way that you can say that he's the most valuable player. And first of all, they was in the play-in game. They lose 2 play-in games, don't even make the playoffs. And so based off of some of you guys' theory, for y'all to put Steph Curry in there, why can't we say Russell Westbrook the same? Because he had just as much of a great second half of the season as Steph Curry did. The man averaged a triple-double. He averaged a triple-double. But, I guess Steph Curry is so therefore they put him in the finals for MVP. And I don't think that he should be even in mentioning it, because MVP is now based off of stats. That's what it's boiled down to now. Like, it's solely off of stats. Like, you can just go out and have the best stats, and that's what they want you to be. TC, and I'm totally agreeing with you, especially if Russ isn't mentioned. He isn't mentioned at all, simply because he's not flashy as Steph and all that good stuff. But that's what everybody wants to see. They want to see the flash. They want to see, all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, if you put Steph Curry in as a finalist, Russell Westbrook should easily be a finalist too. I would have rather seen, somebody at even though James missed a lot of games down the stretch, for that hamstring, put James in there. I mean, even the Greek Freak. I mean, anybody besides Steph. And then, you put Joel Embiid in there. He had a hell of a season. He done a great job in Philly, up under new leadership of Doc Rivers. And, and then everybody's saying Jokic is, he's just the MVP. And I was glad to see it the other night whenever they played the Portland. And Portland basically said, we're just going to let you get yours. And everybody else, we'll just, You just go ahead and get yours. And guy ended up with 1 assist. And I think that, his stats are very inflated. It comes from a regular season where you don't play against the same teams all the time. Nobody really has a chance to really scout you the way they want to and game plan for the way the way they want to. So me personally, I don't even think Jokic is, and I think that the way they play, and I've been on the record to say this, the way they play, I don't like the way they play. They do everything through him. And whenever it's time for everybody else to do something, then they don't know what the hell to do simply because of everything going through him. So, and then TC, I don't even know why I didn't mention him, man. I say this all the time. Chris Paul could have easily been the MVP the last 2 years. Easily. And if anybody disagrees with that, you don't know basketball. You don't know what this man is doing. You haven't seen anything. You don't know anything, because Chris Paul has been, and he's never mentioned because he's not flashy like everybody else. He's a small stature point guard, but he gets it done. If you look at Chris Paul's resume, the last 2 years, he took a dead in the water Oklahoma City Thunder team and put them in playoff contention. A team that they were tanking, and he decided to stay. I'm gonna stay, and he molded that team, and you saw his imprint, his fingerprint, his DNA all over that team. Turn around this year, he's traded to Phoenix, and you can see Phoenix a totally different squad now. Like, the things that Chris Paul do, he's hid Devin Booker's deficiencies, and that's what people all they see is Devin Booker scoring a bunch of points, but Chris Paul is the mastermind behind everything. And don't get me wrong, Monty Williams done a good job, but we just talking about MVPs now. Chris Paul should be an MVP finalist, playing in the story. Appreciate you checking in, Latrosky. Yeah, he makes every team level up. If you go and look at his resume, the teams that are not in playoff contention, aren't good, he's been turning them around. And like me personally, that's more impressive than anything. And like in this league now, you're not going to win. You're not going to win with a smaller point guard like him. He's a traditional point guard. Yes, he's changed his game and all that good stuff, being more of a three-point shooter and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, he should be mentioned. You take Steph Curry off of that, put Chris Paul on there. Plain and simple, because we're talking about MVP for a whole season, not MVP for 3/4 of the season. And that's because if I'm not mistaken, you remember Steph Curry started off pretty bad. He did. He definitely did. He started off pretty bad, and everybody was blaming it on him not having help and this, that, and the third. It was making up excuses, and but the same thing happened with Russell Westbrook. Y'all don't want to mention him. And Russ was injured the first part of the year. Never said anything with a new team and all that good stuff, but you never said anything. But Jokic, yeah, y'all can give him MVP. Y'all can look at him as an MVP. Embiid, I felt like he was playing MVP. I don't feel like teams should or it should be held against them because they maybe get injured and all that good stuff. He came back. Yeah, he was injured for a little bit. But, Jokic done played every game. But who has more of an impact? Who is most valuable to their team? And as you can see, without Jamal Murray, what's the name? Denver not as good, and we can say the same thing for Philly. But Joel Embiid goes down, then Philly is you still got other guys and stuff like that. But Steph shouldn't be mentioned. Joel should be, but Chris Paul name should be in there. Plain and simple. Chris Paul name should be in the finalists. If not, in my personal opinion, this is 2 years in a row, I said Chris Paul should be MVP. It's hard to go against that when the man has done nothing but be an impact player, and it says most valuable player. You took him off Oklahoma City team last year, they would have been in the lottery. You take him off of this Phoenix team, They it's just Devin Booker. That's all it is. He's scoring a bunch of points and they don't win. But he has really given these guys confidence, and I just feel like he is very underappreciated by a lot of us as fans and a lot of people who enjoy sports and the people who doing all this voting. I think he's underappreciated. And so, but I'm gonna get off of that because I can talk about MVPs and stuff like that for the longest. But I'm gonna get off the NBA for just a second, and I'm gonna talk about Julio Jones. He says, "I'm out of here," and he did it on a phone call with Shannon Sharp, which I thought it was kind of messed up that Shannon put him on TV like that for him to say that and this, that, and the third, because maybe he didn't want to go about it that way, but I don't know, and maybe he did. But I just felt like it wasn't the right time. He did it on national television. And I know you've been with Atlanta 10 years. You also say you don't want to play for the Cowboys and, this, that, and the third. And so and he's owed a lot of money over the next 3 years. And his money, whenever I say that he is owed a lot of money, let me pull it up because I didn't get it. So Julio Jones, he said, "I'm out of here." And if I'm not mistaken, his base salary is $15.3 million guaranteed for this season. And he's scheduled to cost the Falcons $23 million against the cap in 2021. He has a cap hit of $19.263 million in 2022 and 2023. So, if they move him, it's going to be pretty hard. But they saying they're asking for a first round pick. I wish they wouldn't have. I wish they wouldn't have done that over the phone on national television, because I think Julio Jones is a much better person than that. Atlanta's been good to him. He had a bad season last year due to injuries, but if you want out of Atlanta, I think he should have got out of Atlanta a couple years ago, because you've been riding Matt Ryan for the longest, and I felt like Matt Ryan been in decline for some years now, but they just gonna keep holding on to him and holding on to him and holding on to him. So that being said, Julio says he won out of Atlanta. It's let's see who's gonna go after him, because Atlanta said they want at least a first round pick and probably some other incentives and everything. And if I'm not mistaken, Julio is in his 30s. How old is Julio Jones? Julio Jones, he's like 32. He's 32 years old. And as a receiver, you start declining at that age or whatever. But we'll see. It's interesting that it was done over the phone. It was done on national television, and I just felt like Shannon Sharp had did something dirty. But Julio, he might have wanted to do it that way. I'm thinking that he knew he was on TV, but now he caused this big old uproar. Now Atlanta has to do something. But here's the other thing: a lot of people are going to use that as a bargaining tool, because they're going to be like, if he's disgruntled like this and he goes on national television and do that, then do we want a guy like that on our team? And that's what I don't think it was thought out real well for it to be done on national television. He's been great to the Falcons, so we're gonna see what Julio decides to do from here, or what Atlanta decides to do, because really they don't have to trade him, which I think it would be real ugly if they didn't now, because he basically done put it out there that he doesn't want to be there. He don't want to be there. I'm out of here, and he doesn't want to play with the Cowboys. But it would be some shit if they decided that they were just gonna trade him to the Cowboys, because I don't know. I don't think he has a no trade clause. It's like, he can't just say, "Oh, I don't want to go there." And so it'd be crazy if they decide to trade him to the Cowboys, and he done blasted both of them on national television. But some things like that get Jerry Jones a little incentive to go after them. So we'll see what happens with Julio. I'm an Eagles fan, and I don't want to hear go after Julio. No. I don't want to see nothing like that. But I'm gonna get off football because the Eagles. I don't even want to talk about the Eagles right now. All right, so we're gonna start talking about this basketball. We had a great weekend of basketball. Yeah, trust God, believe. But Jerry Jones will spend that money, man. You know, because of salary cap. But you know, he'll overspend. He'll get rid of some people. He'll get rid of some. But I'm like y'all. I don't think it'll work out either. But you know, we're gonna talk about NBA. NBA basketball. You know, started there. Started the playoffs after the play-in games and everything, and you know, has some really good games on. And you know, and I was very surprised because I haven't been the biggest fan of the NBA simply because they don't like to compete. You know, they got all types of stuff that they trying to do to get them to compete. You know, all that stuff. But you know, had a pretty good game. The first game that came on was the Heat versus the Bucks, and that game is actually being played right now. They have game 2 going on right now, and it is really ugly right now. And I said that you know the Heat would come out this game and change stuff around, and they would get a Bucks problem, but I don't know if that's going to happen. They down 78-51 right now, and it's halftime. That's not something that you want to come back from after losing off of, you know, a game winner by Chris Middleton. Antetokounmpo didn't play particularly well, but, you know, they went into overtime and Chris Middleton hit a, you know, tough shot to win the game. Me personally, I had, you know, some people tell me that the Bucks would come out of the East and they would win it all behind Chris Middleton, because Chris Middleton going to be the guy that's going to take all their game winners and take all the tough shots. And I call him crazy because there's nowhere in the hell the Bucks going to win with Chris Middleton being the guy that's going to take all them damn shots, because Antetokounmpo going to have to do something. See, Trav, I'm not watching it, but they made 10 threes in the first quarter. Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy. Like, it's hard to beat somebody like that. But the other thing is, no lead is safe in the NBA. So it's just halftime. And I'm not saying that the Heat going to come back, but can the Bucks shoot like that for a whole nother half? And we done seen it happen before where people come back from large deficits after halftime simply because, you know, it was one half of shooting great. And then, you know, after that, they kind of cooled off whenever, you know, they went and sat down for a little bit. But I thought this would be an intriguing series simply because of what happened last year. The Heat had a great recipe on beating these guys last year, and I thought Spoelstra would come out and, you know, and throw some wrinkles and things and defensively and, you know, confuse the Bucks. And right now it's looking like they're going to go down 0-2. But the other thing is that, you know, the good thing about it is it's a 7-game series. They'll have to go to Miami and play a couple of games, and I think it will be totally different now. We're going to see what's going to happen with the rest of this game. But, you know, game 1 was a good game. Chris Middleton hit, you know, a tough shot. You know, Jimmy Butler did his thing. And I just hope this series doesn't turn out to be one of those ones that it was great last season, and this season it turns out to be, you know, the Milwaukee Bucks just, you know, taking over and winning in 4 or 5. I like to see, you know, a good series between these guys, because I think the Heat has a pretty decent team and a good coach in Eric Spoelstra. But the Bucks might show they too much for them, especially if they shooting 10 threes in one quarter. So, well, not shooting 10 threes, but making 10 threes. All right, and we're going to stay in the playoffs. The next game that came on was one of my favorite. The Mavs versus the Clippers. Me and my brother had texted each other. He was like, hey, man, you think the Mavs can beat the Clippers? And the first thing I told him was yes. And he said, why? And the reason why is because I'm not sold on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Not to lead a team. And everybody try to say Kawhi is a superstar. He's the man. He's the reason why, you know, Toronto won the finals and they finally got a championship and this, that, and the third. But we all know what happened. Yeah, you got a tough shot against Philly in the conference and got past Philly. And then you end up playing against Golden State. Golden State KD goes down with Achilles. Klay Thompson goes down with a knee. I mean, what else? So you basically had a series that was pretty simple. Like if KD plays, in my personal opinion, they probably get swept. I mean, you might win one game because as we can see, when KD was playing, they was already up 11 before he tore his Achilles in that game. I think he came back too soon, but that's neither here nor there. Paul George is Paul George. Like that's what he's been doing his entire career. He plays good in the regular season. He puts so much effort into it, and then he kind of falls off towards the end of the year. Then come playoff time, he's lost. And I think it's just too much pressure on him because for some particular reason, we have made a lot of these guys superstars that's really not superstars. And Paul George is one of those guys. Is Paul George a great talent? Yes, he is. Can Paul George shoot the ball? Yes, he can. Can Paul George score? Yes, he can. But can Paul George be the man to take you to the promised land? No, he cannot. And I've said this numerous times, and a lot of people think I'm crazy. A lot of people keep continuously saying, like, these guys, no, they're not. They're not. These two, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, benefited from systems. They benefited from systems. And at some point in time, somebody's going to have to realize that these guys are not guys that you can just say, take the ball and win me basketball games. They're not. They're not. Whenever Kawhi Leonard was in San Antonio, it was a team-oriented system. He could play bad and they could still win simply because, it wasn't based solely on one person. Toronto, he came into a system and he had some good role players and good players around him. That's what made him, good in Toronto. And I felt like it was a bad idea for him to leave Toronto and go to LA and go to the Clippers to be the guy. And then to want Paul George at the same time was his other problem. And now, I'm speaking ahead of time, but it's already looking like he see the writing on the wall. So I'm going to get the hell out of LA before you know it, because he ain't signed no contract extension or anything like that. And then the other problem with the Clippers is this right here. Whose team is it? Is it Paul George's team or is it Kawhi Leonard's team? And when somebody answer that question for me and answer it like, you definitely know whose team it is, then talk to me. Because we know whose team the Lakers is. It's LeBron James' team. A lot of people are trying to, play dumb and talk about, it's Kyrie's team. Everybody know that the Nets is Kevin Durant's team. We all know that. But do we know who is the man for the Clippers? We don't. We don't know whose team it is. And then they playing against this young guy, Luka Doncic. I'm going to talk about him. He torched him for a 30-point triple-double yesterday. Or day before yesterday. Was it day before yesterday? Yes, day before yesterday. He torched him for a 30-point triple-double. And it's the same guy. Yeah, he had a coming out party the last playoffs. And this playoffs, now you let him get off like this right here. And Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are supposed to be the best two-way players in the NBA. But I don't see it. I don't see it at all because they don't care about it no more. TC, I say it all the time. Whose team it? You don't know whose team it is because they pay Paul George like he the man. But it's supposed to be Kawhi Leonard's team. But back to Luka, though. Back to Luka. Luka is torching these boys. And, it's looking more and more evident like Dallas might have the Clippers number. And so my thing is, what will we say if Dallas beats them in the first round? Will Kawhi Leonard start getting the heat like Russell Westbrook, like LeBron James, like Kevin Durant? Because lo and behold, if LeBron loses in the first round or don't make it to the finals, everybody and their mama going to be after him. KD the same way. So we say that that Kawhi Leonard is one of the top talents in the NBA. That's what a lot of people say. So when are we going to start holding this guy accountable? Because if they go down 0-2 to the Mavs, they might get swept. They might get swept. And that's just being real. They might get swept. So we'll see what happens there. But shout out to the Dallas Mavericks. They come with a great game plan. And everybody keeps showing that dunk that Kawhi Leonard had, but guess what? The Mavs, got the final laugh. They won. They won the game. So we'll see what happened in game 2. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Hey, playoff P better show up. Next game was the Celtics and the Nets. The Nets lead the series 1-0. I watched this game and Boston started out really good. They hit their first couple of threes. They got up, by 10, 12 points. It just looked like the Nets were completely just out of it. Like they act like they didn't want to be there. They were just going through the motions and, all that good stuff. And I think Boston played a pretty decent game. Matter of fact, it might have been one of their better games. And the Nets just came back and took over. And before you know it, it was almost a 20-point lead in a matter of a couple of minutes. Like it just turned around that quick. Jason Tatum had a great first half, but had a not so great second half. The way I look at it is Boston just doesn't have enough to beat the Nets. The only way the Nets lose to them is if the Nets just do not show up and play. Like Kevin Durant could get 30 just in his sleep easily. I don't think that Kyrie had the best shooting game, but this, the second half they had they all shot the ball with him, James, and KD. But I just don't feel like Boston has it to beat them. And, everybody going to say, Jaylen Brown being hurt, COVID season. But y'all know how I feel about the Celtics. I think that, they need a new voice. It's time for a change. But, game 1, shout out to Brooklyn. KD back. He looked like himself. And, and he missed some shots in the first half that he would usually make. And like I said, he had 32 off of 10 to 25 shooting. And that's not the efficient KD that we know, because if he was efficient, made 5-6 more shots, he could have easily had 45, 50 almost, easily. And I think that, come out game 2, he's subject to do that. And I think that Brooklyn they're too much for Boston, in my personal opinion. I just think they're too much. Boston, played one of their better games, and they still had trouble, keeping up with the Nets. So, Jason Tatum, you and Kemba Walker, y'all just keep fighting, keep battling. But I think this right here will be this one will be one of the short series, in my opinion. I think it'll end in 4 or 5. That's just what it looks like to me. I think the Nets will make quick do with them. Boston might win 1 in Boston. Maybe game 4, because I think the Nets will win the next 2. That's just my personal opinion. And then we'll see what Boston does from there. One of the games I love was the Blazers and the Nuggets. Portland's up 1-0. Dame Lillard did his thing. Portland defensively did a great job. They held Jokic to 1 assist. And like I said, they just said, Jokic, you can go ahead and score, do whatever, but y'all team plays better whenever you're able to, facilitate and all that stuff. So we're not going to send double teams, none of that stuff. The fans booed Carmelo Anthony. And, I mean, he gave Denver a good 8 years. Like, why would you boo the man for, wanting to better his career and go somewhere else and, be closer to home? And they booed him. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, he had 18 points, in that game. And he was cooking the first half. This is going to be an intriguing series to me because Jamal Murray is out. And I think that without Jamal Murray, I think Portland is going to beat these boys. And I think that Portland will beat them in 5 or 6. Dame Lillard is just going to be Dame Lillard and do what he normally do. And I think he'll get Portland to the second round. I don't think that the Nuggets have enough to without Murray to do anything significant in this series. I could be wrong. They might come up with another game plan, but as of right now, I can't see them beating Portland without Jamal Murray. I just can't see it. So I mean that series, and I would like to see Dame Lillard, take his guys to a deep playoff run because he's one of those guys that ain't trying to team up with everybody, ain't trying to form super teams. He just want to compete and want to play, and he want to beat whoever they put in front of him. So. And I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for the Blazers to move on in that series. Next one, the Wizards and the 76ers. 76ers up 1-0. Tobias Harris had a hell of a game. But it's some optimism in Washington because I think this series is going to be a lot longer and a lot tougher than a lot of people are saying it's going to be. I think the Wizards could mess around and maybe steal game 2. Russ and Bradley Beal. I don't even think Russ had one of the better games, but Bradley Beal did what Bradley Beal does, and if Russ pick up his play, in game 2, and everything goes the way it was going, I got a feeling that that Washington could steal game 2 in Philly. And, I could be wrong, we'll see what happens, but it's some optimism because, the Philly just didn't run away with that. Like, they look like just the 1 seed in the East and the Wizards just look like a 8 seed. So like, we'll see. I mean, it's just a matter of how Russ and Bradley Beal play. They got to play like neither one of them can have bad games. They have to be, on top of everything. They can't have the mistakes that everybody else have, and I think that's one of the things that happened down the stretch. I think Russ turned the ball over, which kind of sealed the deal on everything. But at the end of the day, if those two play well and get everybody else involved, get the others involved, I think they got a chance to. I ain't saying they're gonna beat Philly, but scare Philly a little bit. Make them play, make them sweat a little bit, and and mess around because Philly is kind of young still, and if you see if they tighten up, if the Wizards win a couple of games and they tighten up and and start playing kind of uptight and feeling like they plan to not lose and instead of playing to win. So that series I really got my eyes on because I got a feeling that the Wizards could win the next game if Russ and Bradley Beal play well together. And move on to the next one. This game right here was a really good game. Game 1 between the Lakers and the Suns. Phoenix ended up winning probably by 9 points, if I'm not mistaken. But Devin Booker, he went out and just had a hell of a game. LeBron James, you can tell he's kind of hobbled. But the other thing that didn't surprise me because me and some friends had already talked about it and stuff like this was Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis he does stuff like this, right? He had those games where he just don't show up. He had games where he just looked lost. He looked like he can't play. He looked like he's unenthused. And, he got in front of the camera last night and said it's on him. The loss is on him. He got to play better and this, that, and the third. But, of course, he's going to say that. But, Aiden made him look like he was weak. It looked kind of scared to me, like he just wasn't aggressive or anything like that. And, it got kind of chippy down the stretch. LeBron James, the guy deserved an Oscar for his acting job. Like, I wish he would stop that, like really should stop that, because all of that stuff that happened, him putting on caused out all of that uproar down the stretch and all that good stuff, man. I just wish he would stop with the theatrics. I wish Dave, he got to start. I wish he would stop with the theatrics, man. Like, because it's just ridiculous for him to be putting on like that, trying to sell files and all that good stuff. And like I've heard some people say Chris Paul is dirty. He done some dirty stuff. Yeah, I've seen Chris Paul do dirty things and everything, but I don't think what he did last night was dirty. Was it illegal for him to come in a little quicker from the 3-pointer? Yes. But him boxing out the way he did and LeBron fell the way he fell, I don't think it was. I think it was just overreacted by LeBron. He was trying to sell something. He was really trying to sell a foul and hoping that the refs would buy it and all that good stuff. But this series could be, real intriguing also. A lot of people don't, and I'm going to say this because this is my podcast and I say whatever I want to say about it. But I picked Phoenix to win, but at the same time, I know that the NBA is not going to allow LeBron James to lose in the first round, unless he's just hobbled and get hurt or something like that. And you physically see that he is laboring and can't do anything. I never really been sold on Anthony Davis. Everybody tries to say he's a top 5 talent, and I disagree. I just think he benefits from playing with LeBron James right now. Everybody try to use his stats when he was with New Orleans. I saw him quit on New Orleans and quit on his teammates. Whenever you play in situations where you're the guy, you play in a smaller market, it's hard to get other talent stuff around. You take all the shots. Yeah, your stats going to be inflated. Plain and simple. But me personally, I'm watching LeBron James. I'm going to see how he comes out with that ankle, because you've seen on some of his shots, it just didn't look good. He don't have any explosiveness like that. And then the other thing, the biggest thing, the next few games is going to, ride on the shoulder of Chris Paul. If that shoulder is hindering him from doing anything, then I think the Lakers got a real good chance, because they can go and double Booker, because CP3 is struggling with that shoulder. They said it's a contusion, so we'll see what happens. And it's just unfortunate for Chris Paul. Like, it seems like when he has a chance to win to get to the playoffs, something usually happens where he gets injured or something like that happened with him when he was in Houston. It just happened to him time and time again. So I hope that he's okay, because if he's healthy and Devin Booker plays the way he played and Aiden plays the way he played, I think they got a good chance to beat the Lakers. Simply because I think they have a more complete team. And I think that Chris Paul has given a lot of these guys a lot of confidence and a lot of, will to understand. Then Monty Williams, like you heard him say, I don't want to wait, come in June and July and say what coulda, shoulda, and all that good stuff. This is our time now. And I think that, it's a lot of people rooting for him because of what happened to him in his personal life, his wife, being killed a few years ago. But I've always liked Monty Williams. He's always been a tremendous coach to me. But to see the way he's rallying these guys and all that good stuff, and I don't think on the other side you're getting the same thing, because Vogel wins the championship simply because he was coaching LeBron James. So Monty Williams, shout out to him. Hope Chris Paul is okay, because I don't want to see anybody hurt. That's the thing. I would like for LeBron to be 100%. So if Chris Paul was to beat him, then he can say, I beat a healthy LeBron. And the same thing for LeBron. If he beat Chris Paul, I beat Chris Paul healthy. You know what I'm saying? So, we're going to see what's going to happen. But, the Lakers better figure out something for Devin Booker, because this young man went out yesterday and he tore some things up, man. Like, he was on another level yesterday, scoring and all that good stuff. Like I said, Chris Paul hides a lot of some of his deficiencies and stuff, because now all he has to do is score. He don't have to get anybody involved because Chris Paul gonna get everybody involved. So, we'll see what happens. Game 2 comes up, I think, tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken, for the Lakers and the Suns. So I think tomorrow night, we have the Celtics and the Nets, the Lakers and Suns, and then the Mavericks and the Clippers for all for game 2. So those should be 3 good games tomorrow. And tonight we got 2. We got the Heat and the Bucks and the Trailblazers and the Nuggets. So that's game 2 after this game right here goes off. All right, the next game that happened was it was great to see basketball back in New York with the Knicks. They're the 4th seed. They got a decent young basketball team with some veteran leadership. They're playing against the Atlanta Hawks, who are kind of the same. This game went down to the wire. Atlanta leads 1-0. Trae Young hit a nice floater to end the game and seal the deal in Madison Square Garden. Julius Randle didn't have the best game. I think it was a lot of nerves and stuff like that. New York hadn't been in the playoffs in a while. They really haven't been relevant. So hopefully he bounces back. This right here could be one of the better series that we have in the first round, because if these 2 teams go back and forth, we could get us a 7-game series with, game 7 at Madison Square Garden. And then we'll see which young star will prevail between Trae Young and Julius Randle. I just think Randle needs to settle down. Game 1 is over with. Made some mistakes. Hopefully Thibodeau, settle him down and put him in the right situation. I think he made a couple of mistakes down the stretch to put somebody in that had been sitting on the bench for a while and was cold and all that good stuff. And that's a tough thing to do, to come in and guard somebody who's just been on a tear and Trae Young or whatever. So, I think this series could be one of the better series, simply because you got good young talent. I'm not saying neither one is going to win, the NBA Finals, but just to see some good basketball and see some good young talent, to see them compete against each other. And, Trae Young, he hit that shot and he made some comments and said that, he had the crowd quiet. They're going to be even worse whenever you go back, because that's how they are in New York City. So, you better be ready for the Madison Square Garden and Spike Lee and all them guys. But, I was hoping the Knicks would win, because I just want to see the Knicks get back relevant again. But it wouldn't be bad for the Hawks to win either, because you got a good young talent in Trae Young and, some other pieces and stuff around them. So this is another good series to watch and look forward to and watch the games, because you got 2 young teams with some veteran talent that, could turn out to be a good 7-game series. And the final game was the Grizzlies versus the Jazz. Memphis won the game last night. They're up 1-0. If Donovan Mitchell is not available, then Memphis has a real good shot of beating these boys. And even if Mitchell comes back now, because Ja Morant and them guys playing good, it's going to be tough for the Jazz to win, because you give these guys a little bit of confidence, because Memphis is playing like they have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So they say Mitchell was, a last-minute scratch from the game. He was kind of upset with, the Jazz doctors for pulling from the game, because he felt like he was ready, so he had no pain. He coming from off that ankle injury. But I think the Jazz need him. And if his ankle is not good, then it's going to hurt him more than it will help him, because, Mitchell uses his athleticism to do everything that he's supposed to do, and that's what his game is predicated on. So, that being said, this Jazz team, at one point in time, they were tearing up the league, and they were one of the better teams, one of the better defending teams. And that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to hang their hat on defense. So we'll see if Quinn Snyder, goes and turns some things around, makes some adjustments, and all that good stuff. Um, yeah, Dave, I did see that they said he playing. Brian, they said he playing in game 2. I did see they said he was playing in game 2. So I mean, we'll see. If he could have played in game, if he playing in game 2, I feel like he could have played in game 1. He ain't nothing but a couple of days apart. Hey Terry, how you doing? But with that being said, it could turn out to be a real good series, but the Jazz gonna have to find out, because you don't want to get this good young Memphis team a chance to steal another game and then go home. And I need to double check and see if Memphis is letting fans in. If I'm not mistaken, they letting fans in there, and that's one of the most rowdiest places to play in. They used to call it the grindhouse, and those fans get real rowdy out there in Memphis. So I mean, we'll see what happens in this series, and and go from there. But Donovan Mitchell plays next game, so he should make an impact. He should be a big time impact on the game and the series. But they need to find a way to get Ja Morant under control, because I mean, he's up and coming. He's a young star in the making, and he's playing basketball the right way. He just beat Steph Curry them in the playing game to get that 8th seed. So they playing with a little chip on their shoulder. So the Jazz better get a chip on theirs, and Donovan Mitchell, I hope their ankle's good. So, if Memphis do beat you, they can say we beat a healthy, Jazz team. So, the NBA playoffs was great to me. To start out, like me and Brian and we talk about, games and stuff like that. And we was like, man, it's been some good games that came on. And I was kind of shocked and I was kind of surprised at the game 1s, but I'm looking forward to game 2s and sitting down. I actually sat up real late and watched the game for the first time in a very, very long time. So, NBA playoffs are back. We'll see what happens. And we will go from there. And so my final word is about the NBA and how they have a double standard. The NBA been having all these protocols and everything about COVID-19 and all that good stuff. And so, like, if people doing all these testing, if you had contact tracing, then you had to go quarantine. You couldn't be around your team. None of that stuff. If somebody around you got COVID, there's like contact tracing. Even if a lot of times you could pass yours, but like they didn't want you around everybody. They want you to go in quarantine. And now a lot of people saying it's different. And I already knew once I saw it that what the NBA was going to do. I knew they was going to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to it. But LeBron James, he violated the league safety protocol. I knew they weren't going to suspend him. I knew they weren't going to make him go in quarantine or none of that stuff, simply because he's LeBron James. And at the end of the day, I think it's a bad look by the NBA because, you can't have double standards like that whenever it comes to health and safety. Yes, I know in some games and all that good stuff that, you get superstars calls, and because you got superstar calls, you don't give somebody who is not as good or not nearly as good the same call that you would give a superstar. But in this instance right here, the NBA looks very weak in this, in my opinion. LeBron James' statement or apology or whatever it was, I thought it was a bunch of BS. And at the end of the day, I mean, he showed that he didn't care. And he basically said that, I'm LeBron, I do what I want to do, and this, that, and third. And he looks like he is bigger than the NBA. And that's what the NBA has allowed him to do. And I don't like it. I mean, me personally, if you break a rule, I don't like a lot of rules in the NBA. But it's one thing that I've learned is that, if they have a rule, you follow it, just like, the rest make calls based off what the rules are. And in this instance right here, he broke a rule, and it's unfortunate it happened during playoff time. But if it's a rule, then you follow that rule, because what if that would have been Kyle Kuzma? Would everybody be saying, oh, well, he was only there for a little bit. Other people got tested. But, if it would have been, a Rajon Rondo, let's say if it had been Jason Tatum, we would be saying how young and immature he was by not following the protocol and all that good stuff. So it just shows like the NBA showing how weak they are, and they trying to give too much power to LeBron James. LeBron James, you always talk about the integrity of the game, and you just show like that the integrity of the game really doesn't matter, because you're going to do what you want to do. It was at, one of your business partners' home, which I really don't care. Like, I know what the health and safety protocol is. Like, a lot of these guys can't do anything. They go to practice, they go to games, they go home. Their family can't go anywhere. Their family have to sit at home. If they do go somewhere, they have to go in quarantine. They have to get tested. They have to do all that stuff. So I think it was very unfair for him, and I think it was very selfish of him to do that. So I wish the NBA would find a way. I ain't saying suspend him, but find his ass, do something, show that, you have some balls, and show that you have a backbone, because I don't think anybody should be suspended for, breaking that rule. Now, if you came in contact with COVID or something like that, and that's what the health and safety protocol is. A lot of people saying, well, the protocol was written whenever we was going through the worst part of the pandemic, but the protocol is still in place. And I feel like LeBron James, overstepped, and he showed that he really doesn't care about rules whenever it comes to something. Now, I wonder if one of his teammates would have did that, how he would have felt and what he would have said. And with that being said, I just want to say, if anybody came on here and checked it out, I appreciate you checking me out. I'll be back on next Monday. Matter of fact, I probably won't be back next Monday, because next Monday, if I'm not mistaken, is a holiday, and it's Memorial Day. So I know a lot of people be on vacation. Hell, I might even go on vacation or something like that. So if you ever want to come back and check out the show, you can always go on our Twitter, or you can go on my Instagram or anything like that, and you just Google This Brother Talks. That's what the Instagram is, and our Twitter is This Brother Talks. Also, YouTube is This Brother Talks, and then our Twitter is, and I'll tell you exactly what it is, because they made me get something real crazy whenever I got this Twitter. But the Twitter is at talks_this. Talks_this. So, I mean, I keep, sort of kind of engaged on it. I'm doing a better job of starting to put stuff on there. So, everybody who checked it out, I really appreciate you. Until next time, and I'll let you know if I'm gonna be on next Monday. Y'all have a good rest of the week. Enjoy the NBA playoffs. Have a good night.